Welcome to my second video of the Matcha Brokerage Review series, where I talk about and review my experience with various online business brokerages. This video focuses on what it is like to sell with FEI International and what to expect. In this video, I'm going to go in depth in regards to what it's like working with them as a seller. If you are a potential buyer, then you can go to my very first video that talks about what it's like to work with them as a buyer. This video is exclusively focused on the seller's point of view. Hope you enjoy. So, what we're covering today. Who is FEI International? What businesses can be listed? What's the listing process like? Pricing and multiple fees, the fun money stuff. How long does it take to sell? Talking to buyers and negotiations, the migration and escrow process once an offer is accepted, the overall pros and cons of working with FEI International as a seller, and finally, my recommendations. Are they worth using? So a little bit about me before we get started. I'm Colin Ma. I run matchabusinessllc.com. I'm an entrepreneur and SEO of 7 years, and I specialize in acquiring and selling digital assets for myself and clients. If you want to learn more about me, you can visit matchabusinessllc.com or go to the About Me video that I have, which is 5 minutes of me talking about me, my favorite subject. About FEI International. First of all, I have no idea what the FE stands for. I tried to ask Thomas via Twitter. He did not respond. But from their About page, we do know that it was founded in 2010 by Thomas Small. They specialize in profitable SaaS businesses, but really they list all types of businesses from SaaS to e-commerce to content, which are their primary 3 categories, and a few other types of websites. They're great at making real connections, which is something they do better than other brokerages. Other brokerages actually do a pretty bad job of this, like some of them, Empire Flippers, others to name a few. They don't really try to connect with you on a personal basis just because they deal with so many people. With Thomas and the FEI International team, they do a good job of actually talking to you, connecting with you, and following up 3 months, 6 months down the road sometimes. They have team members in the UK and the US, and maybe in Asia. I couldn't confirm that, but I have heard that they do, and they won a number of awards. So here is a list of their competitors from most similar to least similar. I'm not going to go through these in detail right now. I might do a later comparison video, but just so you know, in my opinion, and this isn't perfect, but in my opinion, these are the competitors and brokers that they are most similar to, and these are the ones that they are least similar to. I kind of combine brokers and marketplaces in this simply because at the end of the day, it's a place you're going to go to buy or sell a business, even though there are some differences between a broker and a marketplace. So what's it like to list your business? How does that process go with FEI International? So the types of business models that they accept are really basically any type of digital business and even SBA eligible businesses. If you don't know what SBA is, it's Small Business Association. It's only available in the US. Certain types of businesses, if they're profitable, if they've been run at least either 2 or 3 years and are based in the US and owned by a company, can be eligible for an SBA loan. There are pros and cons. You can look at it to learn a little bit more about these types of businesses if you're trying to sell. But basically, it allows buyers to get access to financing through the US government or through loans backed by the US government, which expands your buyer's pool. They do specialize in profitable SaaS businesses, like I mentioned, but they also have a number of e-commerce and content websites. So their typical range that I see, the lowest I've seen is around $20,000. That's probably going to be about $500 to $600 a month. And then I've seen sites listed as high as 8 figures. I don't know if there is a minimum threshold with them. Empire Flippers has a minimum of like $1,000 a month in profit. Don't know if FEI has the same, and I don't know if they have a maximum. The sweet spot in working with them is probably low 6 figures to low 7 figures, just as far as most of the deals that I see available on FEI International. But if you're outside that range, I see businesses outside of these sell as well. So the listing process, what is the listing process like? It's not too different from working with like Quiet Light Brokerage or Empire Flippers. Um, so you start here on their website, their webpage, and then, to begin with, you just provide basic information about the age, earnings, business model, and you receive a tentative valuation. They'll follow up with you via email. After that, a detailed profit and loss income statement for the last 12 months is asked. So after you receive the tentative valuation, if you want to move forward, FE International, your broker, is going to start asking for a lot more information. So hopefully you did a good job of documenting all of this, because if not, it's going to be a little painful. If you're looking to sell anywhere from like 1 to 6 months, this is something that you can do over time, so it's not as much of a headache. But basically what they're going to ask for a detailed monthly profit and loss income statement for the last 12 months. And I will upload an example of one as a Google Sheet in the description below. Now, they're also going to ask you a number of questions. It's a lot, anywhere from like 30 to 40, and you're going to answer them as best as you can. This is very important that you spend time with this, because prospective buyers will be looking at a prospectus which has your answers. If they find inconsistencies in your answers, they are going to doubt your credibility as a seller, which is very important. Then FE International, they're going to ask for Google Analytics or any third-party metric platforms that you may use. Clicky, HubSpot, whatever, they're going to ask for it all. They're also going to ask for supporting documentation for business and financial claims. So screenshots and videos of that support your statements of how you are making money and how that income is flowing in. Once you get that in, you will get a finalized valuation. If you were pretty honest with this right here, the initial steps, it shouldn't be too different from the tentative valuation. But the devil is always in the details when it comes to deals like this. So once there's a finalized valuation and you decide, hey, it's good, you want to be listed with FEI, FEI is going to start creating the prospectus creation, and the listing goes live. So the key point here is to document everything. Please do remember that there is a non-compete or an exclusivity period with FE International. I believe it's 90 days, don't know off the top of my head, but standard for most brokers in this business is 90 days. So pricing multiples and fees. FE International, they're asking for pretty standard multiples for most sites. And again, that's based off of your earnings, your business model, the site's trajectory. So whether it's going up or down, diversity. So how many different ways does it make money? The more generally, the better. And another thing to note, FEI, they represent the sellers. They represent you guys, not the buyers, because the more you sell for, the more money they make. And that's because they take 15% of the sales price. So the listing price is going to be the price they gave you in the valuation. Most sites do not always sell for that amount because buyers will negotiate for a lower amount. And we'll cover how negotiations work in a little bit. So once you hit that listing, what happens now? Do you just twiddle your thumbs? Do you just chill and wait? So fortunately, at this point, once the business is listed, an email will go out to their email list, and your broker will represent you and your business. So yeah, once it's listed, you can chill a little bit until you hear from your broker. So how long does it take to sell a business? It does depend on the size, niche, negotiations, and a little bit of luck. When I sold my business with FE International, they actually had a buyer lined up instantly. So for me, my listing actually never even made it to listing. I'd had to go through all the steps, but it sold within we hit escrow once I provided all my information and the prospectus was created. I often see a lot of businesses being sold in between 1 and 3 months, especially when they're low 6 figures. As the deal size goes up from mid 6 figures all the way up to 8 figures, you can expect that it's going to take longer to find a buyer. As you move up, there are less buyers and they are going to be more picky about the businesses that they buy. Generally though, like I said, anything from low 5 figures to low 6 figures, there are a ton of buyers if it's a quality business, you should be able to sell it within 1 to 3 months. And if it's a larger business than that, mid six figures, high six figures, depending on the model, you can expect anywhere from probably like 2 to 6 months. There are a lot of buyers for SaaS businesses with FEI International. Like I said, that is a bit of their specialty. So you can expect your SaaS business to potentially sell quicker. Again, if it's of quality. Most people, when they're looking for businesses, they do not want to buy a distressed business that is on a downward trajectory. It's just not attractive as a buyer. But like I said, it depends on a lot of things, and luck is always a factor. So I mentioned, what happens when your listing goes live. First of all, people who are interested will look at the listings page and start to fill out their information if they want more information, coming in the form of the prospectus, which is what FEI creates. And what's in the prospectus is basically, your financials, the P&L, some traffic information, a lot of the Q&A that you did. And that way, before they even talk to you, buyers will have a pretty good understanding of your business and what you would do to grow it. So from there, if a potential buyer wants to learn more about the business, but they're not ready to pull the trigger, they can send additional calls to the broker, who in turn may route them to you, or they will ask to set up a call with you. And so when that happens and they schedule the call, FEI International, your broker, will be there to facilitate the call and kind of help the call advance. It usually starts off with some introductions, then it'll talk about, the seller will talk about the business a little more, the buyer will talk about why the business was interesting to them. This is not the place for negotiations or offers. This is just a chance for the buyer to, build some rapport with you, see if they trust you. And then afterwards, if they want to place an offer, they will talk to the broker through email and, work on negotiations with that broker, who will in turn bring offers and negotiation points to you. Things that you want to keep in mind is, what kind of support are you willing to help with? If your business is very, very simple, like a content website, maybe you're only willing to give 1 month support. If you have a very complicated SaaS product, maybe up to 6 months of support and 3 video calls included in there. There's a lot of ways to do it. A lot of buyers, once a business hits 6 figures or up, they will request for some seller financing or earnouts. It's very common, but as a seller, you have the option to say, hey, no, I only want to do cash offers. So there are a lot of knobs to turn to get to the deal that you want. And so once you do accept an offer, you can begin the escrow and migration process with FEI and the buyer. Once negotiations are over and an offer is accepted, you're going to go through the migration and escrow process. So FEI will create an escrow through escrow.com, which is a third-party, fully licensed escrow within the US. And FEI International creates an asset purchase agreement for all parties, which basically serves as your contract. And in there, they're going to talk about the included assets, post-sale support, the price, everything you can think of. It's effectively your contract of sales. And once that is worked out and signed, everything looks good, you are also going to fill out a migration document. This will contain information such as your login information. And that way, once that is done, FEI International, your broker, will handle a lot of the work to advance through escrow, telling you what you need to do to take care of the appropriate steps. So that's from transferring social accounts to website hosting, everything. So if you've never done this before, FEI International does make it easy. They stay on top of the process. So fees. I mentioned before that FEI International, they represent the seller because the more money your business sells for, the more money they make. And that is a 15% seller fee, up to a certain point, actually. The buyer's fee is 2.5% of the listing price, or $1,000, whatever is lower. So buyers will not pay more than an extra $1,000 in fee to FEI International. FEI International, to my knowledge, is the only broker who actually takes a buyer's fee. which is a slight con as a buyer. I bought and sold from FEI International. I bought and sold with FEI International before, and it's not ideal, but it definitely doesn't prevent me from looking at good deals with FEI International. Ultimately, how do I feel about FEI International? So just to summarize what I like about them, they have a more personalized experience compared to other brokers. They have a very high success rate of over 94%. I know other brokers, they talk about their success rate. To my knowledge, the 94% is the highest, and that's probably because of their personalized experience and them doing such a good job of really getting to know the buyers and sellers. They have buyers with good engagement, again, because of that first reason, very personalized experience. Their migration process is very smooth. They take care of the process and handhold you along the way, whether you are experienced or a new buyer. Finally, they have a large range of buyers. Even though I talk about that they specialize in SaaS businesses, they have a lot of buyers for content sites, for e-commerce sites, almost all types of buyers. What I don't like about them is two things. One, they're very slow to respond to emails. As a seller, it's not that big of an issue. I feel like they're pretty quick. But for the buyers, when they're trying to get more information about the business, I find that the FEI International brokers are a little slow to respond. Sometimes it takes 2 to 4 business days to answer a very simple question, which as a buyer can be a little frustrating. Now, the other thing that I don't like about them as a seller, though, smaller listings have deadlines to receive offers. So for example, if you have a content website being sold or listed for $80,000, FEI International is going to put a deadline as to when they can receive offers. And I don't know how they come up with that deadline, but I know it's pretty fast. I want to say 3 or 4 weeks within that listing date. So that means that you might not be getting as competitive of an offer, but that's also great because there is some urgency from the buyers. So I'm sure they've tested it through their data. They probably end up with higher sales prices with this approach. Intuitively, to me, it's just odd as a seller and buyer. So my recommendation, ultimately, yeah, FEI International, if you couldn't tell, I think they are a great team that you can trust to do a good job. They're a great choice for new and experienced sellers because they hold your hand throughout so much of the process. They make it very easy. For my recommendation, it's not for everyone. Like, it's great to sell profitable SaaS businesses, which is their specialty, mid-market e-commerce. So, 6-figure e-commerce businesses, and low to mid-market content businesses, anywhere from like mid 5 figures to mid 6 figures. Admittedly, for content businesses, they're not my first choice to go to. I usually go with Empire Flippers. But if I don't like Empire Flippers valuation, or I just don't want to deal with them, I fully trust FEI International to get me a good deal. I just think Empire Flippers is a better place for content businesses because they list so many more, and I believe they have more buyers for content businesses. So thank you for tuning in and listening. I hope you found this very helpful. This is just video number 2 of my Matcha Broker series videos. I'm going to be doing a lot more on the other brokers. So let me know if you have any questions in the meantime, whether it's about brokerages, SEO, preparing your website for sale, anything. Happy to help. You can follow me on Twitter or on my website. My Twitter is twitter.com/ColinLMa, and my website is matchabusinessllc.com, both of which I'm going to drop in the description below.